Okay, so today we're going to be looking at what we do when we need to take a sheet that looks like this from one of the HD 2D Ace Attorney games, and we're going to be trying to get it to a functional animation like you would have coming from the Trilogy games, looking like this. All I've got open here to show you how this is going to work is one of the sheets, which is going to contain the emote I'm going to show you, as well as a few others. The sprite from the original game, like you would pull off of court records. And then I have over here an emote I already did from Walkie just to show you how I'm normally going to set this up. This is in a whole bunch of separate layers, as you can tell. You've got these yellow color-coded layers are the different eyes, since you've got open, halfway closed, and closed. Then you've got each of his mouth positions in blue layers over here. One of them's outlined, I don't know why that is. But those are for the talking cycle, and usually there's only 3. Sometimes you're going to have a 4th if the idol has a different mouth position than the talking. Walkie does, he has this little lip thing. And then the layer at the bottom is just the majority of his body. So that's what we're going to try to recreate for organization's sake, doing this over here. So, as far as setting this up goes, we need to take notice that the resolution that we're looking at is not actually what your end resolution is going to be most likely. It's a little bigger. It's 768, or rather 1365 by 768. The height is 768, which is kind of what we need to root our understanding around, because we're going to go over to this original version of the emote, image size, and take the height to 768. And we want to do that as nearest neighbor scaling, which means it's not going to like blur everything, which would make our job a little harder. So then we get Big Christoph. We want to make our canvas match, so we're going to go 1365. And now this is going to match our new canvas for our new emote. This is just to line up the emote and nothing else. So now we need to get our asset from over here. We're doing the normal emote, which is this. Looks a hair different than it did originally. He's not smiling quite so visibly. That's just kind of, I guess, an artistic difference they decided on. But we'll go over here, get a new canvas, and we're going to go for the same 1365, 768. There we go. Get Christoph in here, and then what we want to do is basically swap between these and move around this little bottom layer until we get it where it looks accurate to the original. And I'm just moving this around with the mouse keys. I usually find that to be the easiest, and I think, let's see. No, that's definitely too far left, so I think we had it right there. Maybe down. That looks right there, I think. That seems to be in line. So, when you've got this in position, and sometimes you won't have to do this using an original sprite. Say if he's got 2 emotes that are on the same body position, and you can just swap the face and nothing else, you're not going to have to redo that step every time, but you're certainly going to have to do it when you're getting started. So, we've got in his base layer here. Then comes the part where pretty much everything else is puzzle pieces. So, dealing with that, we'll start with the eyes. You'll also notice a lot of these have duplicates of everything. This evidently has something to do with the way the game buffers in what it's loading, but not really a problem for us. We just need one instance of the eyes. That should be right, making sure we're not getting any extra pixels. We can go ahead and move this one closer and bring in this layer. And the novelty of working in full resolution off the bat at this 768 height and all, rather than going straight to 720p, is that we're not downscaling these eyes and things every time we add them into frame. So as you can see right there, I've lined up the half eyes there. And I just need to cut off the fully closed eyes, make it its own layer, cut, paste, bring that in, and then move it over. Oh, not quite. There we go. So now with all those in place, with him I could leave it like this and have these layers just be on top of everything else, and that would be okay in this case, because he doesn't seem to have an issue with that. But if you've got a character where these iframes are reaching the edges, then they're going to have little partial transparency where the edge of the character is, like how he bleeds off onto the canvas over here. So we do not want that, because then you would have the partial transparency layering up and you might see the outline change when he blinks, which would be ugly. So again, for him, it wouldn't be strictly necessary, but we'll do it anyways. We want to select all the empty space around the eyes, do an inverse select so we have exactly the selection of the eyes, and then we're going to go over to his regular layer, cut, and paste in place, which is Control-Shift-V in Photoshop, if you didn't know that. Really useful. So now I've got all three eyes on their own little layers so that I can toggle them on and off for animations as needed. I like to color code everything. Go ahead and color that layer yellow right there on those layers, and then purple on the base layer over here. So eyes done. We want to get the mouth. Like I said, usually you're only going to have 3 mouth positions. This is one of those times. Get those. Bring them on over. Same deal. And line it up. And the mouth, even more often than the eyes, is going to have that situation I described where definitely don't want it overlapping everything else, or it's going to make it ugly. So we'll take that, cut, paste in place, so it'll be close by. And then we need to move this over. Almost. And you'll notice as you toggle on and off to check things, the obvious little keys right there. You saw the little end of his hair moving over here. That told me I wasn't aligned, even though these chin positions are slightly different right here. Sometimes they're not on the kind of mid-frame of the talking in the regular frame, but in this case that's how it is. Go ahead and do what we did before. Select inverse, turn this back on, cut, and paste in place. Got our talking layers. Gonna go ahead and make them blue. I think they're already in the order I want, that's right. Ooh, okay, we've got something going on here. How did this happen? Ah, okay, so this is something I've seen occasionally. So good that I'm getting to include this here. We've got a little bit of cutoff right here on this talking frame. Generally, when you're looking at these, all of the talking frames and things are going to be the exact same size. Every now and then, just not. Couldn't tell you why. So in this case, what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to grab exactly the amount of space here that is missing, which means it's a duplicate of the base. Make sure I'm adding to selection here when I draw these boxes. Alright, got everything there. Then I'm going to go back to what I know was the base layer, copy, bring back the problem one, Control-Shift-V to paste in place, and then I can go ahead and merge these layers right here. Make it blue again, and everything works. So with that all in order, this is usually the step where whatever I'm doing, everything in place for the emote, I'm going to go definitely save my project file. And I'm always save your project files, always at this full resolution. It's so much harder to undo and fix your mistakes if you scale it down, save it as a GIF, and delete your project file, or save your project files as the end resolution, because then you just can't work backwards to fix off the sheet. You have to start all over. No good, don't do it. So, I'm gonna go in here, gonna go in the folder I made for Christoph, and I'm just gonna keep all my project files in here. I'm just gonna call this A normal. If you've never seen it, the kind of shorthand for blink idle animations with no talking versus the talking. A in parentheses is just blinking, B in parentheses has the talking. So we'll save that as A normal for now. And then comes the point of, okay, how do we animate it? Well, you want to have your timeline visible in Photoshop, whatever version you're using. I hope you're using some version of Photoshop. And when you have open the GIF from the original game, it's going to give you the exact timings of each thing you need. So, in this case, we just need blinking, and it's pretty easy to know the pattern on this, but we're going to go have his eyes being more closed. Between the two eyes half closed, we've got it fully closed, so then there's the cycle you would expect. And we know we're going to have that 2 times to a total of 8 frames, just like over here, and then just the duplicated idle frame at the end to add a little delay. So we'll make 1 more of the original frame, 3rd at the end, and then we just got to copy the times. So all of the frames where he is in the process of blinking, if you notice, are all 0.08. That's pretty common. You're going to see that consistent across most characters. So I'll just go in here, give them all a value of 0.08. And then 1, 5, and 9 are kind of the delays between his blinks. We've got 0.5, 2, and 2.66. Pretty easy. 0.5, 2, 2.66. And general good habit, the only reason this is a feature is because it can save a little file space if you take advantage of disposition in a clever way, as in telling things not to dispose on certain frames can save a little bit, but it's generally just a better practice to check all frames every time to do not dispose. That way you won't have any issues of things overlapping. And if you want to play your animation to check it, you can see he's doing the blink properly. It may look a little slow in your playback. Photoshop is pretty bad about loading this in real time. If you need to see real time, then when you go to the step where you would save GIF, which is loading in right now. Sorry, I've actually got a hotkey for that I should point out to you. Up here, save for web. It's Alt-Shift-Control-S, which is ugly, which is why I have it on a macro. But that's going to give you the saving GIF window and you want to make sure your settings are all good here. GIF, obviously, selective, no dither, no dither, no dither, do not. Transparency, of course, which is going to occupy 1 color on our palette. If you notice, AJHD at least never really seems to take this whole color palette. Even when I downscale, I usually find that pretty nice, that it's not running up against color limit. As long as you're on 256 colors, which is the max, no 512. Matte, none. You don't want that. Matte does funny things with the partially transparent edges, turns them white and things like that. And no transparency dither, same deal. Just do not dither. It looks really, really bad, especially on artwork like this. So we've got them all in place, got what we want there. So, and what I was about to say about if you want to see the speed accurately, you can click preview, and it's going to open it in browser or whatever for you. So that'll just like you open a GIF in a browser, show it just like that. But I'm going to go ahead and save this. Or no, I'm not going to go ahead and save it. We haven't gotten to our end resolution yet. So let's save our project file. I've got the animation and the layers all set up like I want. And then that is the step where I will go over here to image size, and then height 720 is what we want. You can see it's going to evenly come out to 1280. That's why we're being picky about the width. It just makes it nice for us at the end. Bicubic automatic is fine. If you zoom in, you may get a little worried. You're going to see these like partially transparent little edges. Thankfully, that is not a concern for us whatsoever, because if you go look at the GIF saving screen, it's going to make all of those solid. It does that very consistently. Never had an issue with it. It's aware that that's more opaque than not, and GIF doesn't have partial transparency anyway, so it's going to make it totally solid. Now that we're on NRes, we're going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to get it where I had all the other files over here. Not that one, this one. And we've got Christoph. And I'll make a new folder for final stuff over here, since this is all my project files in here. anormal.gif, save, done. So then we're going to want to back up from doing that image size, and I want to go ahead and go to save as, and go ahead and make a B normal. We'll save our B normal once we get there. Go ahead and delete the whole animation. We don't need the blinks. And what we want to do, and I will real quickly just go ahead and check Christoph's talking speed for us to make sure it's no different than normal. There's the B badge normal file from all the Giftsoft Court records. Photoshop will load it in and will give us the time values same as before so that we know. It's also going to have the blinks in the B animation from Court records. Again, we've decided we don't really need to fool with that. Yeah, okay. Looks to be the same, which is that it's going to be 0.16 for each step of his animation, or each step of his talking animation. All these smaller ones you see are where it's got the blinks while talking, which are faster than the lips are. So 0.16 is what we're going for over here. Easy enough. Go ahead and just set that off the bat so all the rest will follow suit. 0.16. It's already on the frame I want him to start talking on. And then the pattern, as we talk about it for talking in 2D Ace Attorney, is ah, ooh, ah. It's always going to be the more open mouth, then the slightly less open mouth, which we call the ooh pose, back to the ah, and then it shuts. So that's the loop right there. Don't need any more of it. That's exactly what we want. If you wanted to put blinks over it, you would have this over, like, spread over like 32 frames with some blinks hidden in there. We don't need to worry about that. So again, at full resolution, I backed up, so I'm at 1365 by 768 over here. Gonna go ahead and save the project file. Then I'll downscale the image to 720. Get us in position. Save for web. And this usually takes a second, especially if you're doing something like a long pre-animation, as it converts everything to GIF, but got what we want. Save B normal in the final folder, and you got it. So that's going to be the pattern for doing everything. Pre-animations are really no different. You may find yourself going to this step where you have to line everything up again a little more when you're doing the pre-animations, because pre-animations have a lot of frames where characters move around often. Sometimes you'll have characters a little bit like Waki who might shake around in their emotes. You'll also have to check your alignment once or twice for that, but it's not too big of a deal. And then, like I said earlier, you're going to notice a lot of your emotes that you're dealing with are actually going to be kind of copy-pasted from the others, where they're more of a variant on another emote than anything else. That is super convenient for us, so I'll just show you right quick. I'm going to take this other emote right here, making sure I don't select extra pixels over there. Take it all the way to the top, there we go. And then copy, go over here. I'll go ahead and, since I backed up the size change, make a new project file. If I remember right, this is called Smile is the name of this emote. I'll guess for now, I can always rename it later. And I don't want any of these blinks or lip flaps because they're going to be different for this different head, but we'll still use this as a base. Got the new torso right here, or rather upper torso head area, however you want to call it. And you can see right there, we made sure it lined all the parts of his clothes lined up. His hair and his head are what's in a slightly different position. So, similar to how I went and cut out the original version of his mouth and eyes before, what I'm going to do is go ahead and use this to go draw a big box. Let's see, let me make sure I'm going up straight. There we go. I'll select all the way to the top. And then that'll let me go back over to this frame here, delete what's not applicable, shouldn't be any floating bits, doesn't look like it, put that in place, and I can go ahead and merge layers. Now I've got the body pose for the next emote going, gonna be the same deal, except conveniently this one doesn't have any eyes, so you would just go in, grab the mouth, rinse, repeat. And that's really all you need to know doing these. Like, it's not as bad as it's made out to be. Obviously, it's a little ugly when you start looking at all this, like, oh god, why are there two of them everywhere? Why is everything in pieces? oh, I'm gonna have to take his little eye twitch and animate that, but it's really not that bad. Things like the eye twitch, which some characters have, not a lot different than doing the blinks, gonna be the same procedure. And other than a few long pre-animations, which might take you a little bit, it's not all that bad, especially if you're not worrying about timing blinks over talking, which is a whole lot of double-checking these animations and saying, okay, what's moving in frame 8, what's on frame 9, which do I need to toggle on for this frame versus this frame. But even the worst animations, that's all you gotta do. Go frame for frame with the original and see which eye position, which mouth position, etc. is he using on that frame till you get to the end. None of these are going to be more than, 40-ish frames for the most part. These were on the DS, so they're not super long. And that's it. Hopefully that helps you all out with what you're doing. And send me any questions if you need.